Okay, so my sleeping's been so weird lately. I fell asleep pretty much immediately after I got back from work and slept for a little bit. And I told you guys I'd try to do a video today, so I'm going to do a video today. And this is Chip, Raptor, Talon, and General Ledger. So, the when Raptor was originally released in the G.I. Joe line, there's a really nice picture of him. We got some detail there with the cowl and the engines on his glider and the glider wings itself. C-M2. What the significance of that is. Got some trouble bubbles in the background and some falcons flying around. So in the original release, the main pitch of Raptor, the purpose of the figure was he was the Cobra Falconer, and he wore this outfit supposedly because it made the Falcons feel more comfortable around him. But his I guess secondary military specialty is he was Cobra's accountant, which is to me the more exciting aspect of it because Cobra needs an accountant. So I kind of like to think of as he's an accountant who just dresses like a bird because he's in Cobra and people wear funny outfits. And in fact, Raptor's funny outfit was the one that finally was just a bridge too far for Cobra Commander, and he had an outburst where he just yells at him and he's like, "I've had it up to here with people in funny outfits. What do you sleep in? A nest?" So his bird is apparently named General Ledger, so that is a nod to Raptor's place as a an accountant. There's a nice portrait of Raptor over here on the side. Got this bladed weapon. He does come with a lot more accessories than the original Raptor came with, who basically came with a backpack with some fabric wings attached to it, like cape, and he came with the Falcon, and I think that he had a handgun. He didn't. His accessories were a lot more sparse than this guy. So let's go ahead and open him up. That's what the top of the package looks like. Pretty plain. 139 figures. That's what this says. This piece of paper with some legal mumbo jumbo that I never read, and the little cardboard insert actually has a little tab to grab a hold of, so that's nice. And it looks like the glider is held into the package with some rubber tabs to our cardboard backdrop. So let me get that out. Get that out of the way. And hopefully, since it's held so tightly to the pack, a lot of double rubber tabs. I'm trying not to scratch the glider itself. Now, those of you who, like me, are big fans of the Marauder Task Force line, this glider does look a lot like the glider that the Marauder guys came up with the engines and the wings. And there's a lot of folds to these wings, so that's a pretty decent wingspan. I'm guessing this is the reason that this figure is a deluxe figure, is because he comes with this rather impressive glider backpack, and it looks like it's got a lot of posing capabilities. We'll look at this a little more later. I don't think I got a chance to say, I think I got distracted when I was doing my Road Pig review, but I was going to say that I felt like Road Pig kind of justified being a deluxe figure since the figure itself appeared to be entirely new parts. I didn't recognize any parts on Road Pig that were reused from anything else. But Raptor does reuse some parts from Zartan, of course. So let's go ahead and have a look at the accessories first, since there are a good amount of accessories. We have this Falcon cowl. Set that aside. Now, the original figure had the cowl molded on. Well, it was a separate piece from the head, but it was like glued to the head. It was not a removable cowl. And then we have these actual Talon-like weapons, these clawed weapons. We've seen weapons like this in the G.I. Joe line before, with the ninja characters usually. Raptor is not a ninja, but since they are claw-like weapons, they are appropriate for a man with a bird theme. They are not identical and the handles are angled slightly differently, probably so they can fit in each hand properly. And then we have a gun, which I'm not an expert in guns, but to me this one looks more like a Glock. I could be mistaken. Set that aside. So if anybody knows what type of gun that is, feel free to say in the comments, oh, that's a blobbity blobbity blue. I don't know. I'm not a gun expert, unfortunately. And we've got a little knife. Teeny tiny little knife. And both of those should probably have places on the figure to be stored. Then we have General Ledger, who is in kind of a relaxed, perched on the wrist kind of position. Unfortunately, this figure set does not have a version of General Ledger with the wings open for flight. Just one that looks like it's supposed to. I don't even know if that's going to fit on his wrist or like some piece of equipment that he has, because it doesn't look like the claws are enough to grip the wrist, but I could be wrong. We'll figure that out in a minute. And then Raptor himself, who does not appear to be held in with any rubber tabs. So good on Hasbro for that. Now, as seems to be something that Hasbro has been going for a lot lately. Let me get this put back together so I can toss it in the recycling later. Hopefully actually toss something in the recycling since I've got like so much stuff piling up here. My couch is starting to get kind of crowded with action figure packages. So both unopened and opened at this point. So the original Raptor figure was bare-chested, save for this red necklace that he had. And this one adds a few things that the original figure did not, as far as that concerns. First of all, there's this feathery vest, which still, leaves him mostly, shirtless, but it is kind of a shirt after a fashion, I guess. You can see there are some straps underneath the armpits. So this might be intended to be more of a harness that just has a lot of feathers on it, but to me it looks like a vest. So I'm going to call it such. I'm guessing the arms are, the same arms as Storm Shadow, because there is like a little bit of extra articulation here, but I'm getting ahead of myself. He's got kind of it's almost like a high and tight combined with a mullet. So it's shaved on the sides, it's long in the back, it's all slicked back. I think the slicked back look is really appropriate to him in like that American Psycho kind of way. And he did have hair that was kind of longish like this in the comic book when it showed him without his cowl. So, I'm about to see. Oh, damn. That was a loud one. But yeah, Raptor in the comic book, I think, like, as far as the visual of him when he was out of or mostly out of the costume, was they kind of wanted like a yuppie kind of thing going on, like an American Psycho, we might say nowadays. And he looked like, to me, like he was drawn to look like Nicolas Cage. And I don't know if that was the intention, but to me, he always looked like Nicolas Cage. So this figure doesn't really look that much like Nicolas Cage, so much as he does have the kind of prominent nose that Mr. Cage has. So yeah, and he's got a mask. This is not just face paint that's on his face. This is sculpted in. It's a mask. It's got like almost kind of a feathery kind of look, like texture to it. It looks like the kind of, you can imagine Nightwing having a mask like this, actually. So maybe I could take this and make it, not this one, but I've seen like where people done scans of it online. I could 3D print one and use it for like a custom Nightwing figure. That might be cool. So, and then he also has, in addition to the vest, he has some tattooing over his body, because like I said, they going crazy with the tattoos on these classified figures nowadays. They figured out how they can do tattoos, and they can look really cool, and pretty much every figure's got a tattoo nowadays. But I'm not complaining. It actually works pretty well. It's almost like a kind of a tribal thing they've got going on, and I guess they're kind of more leaning into a Native American appearance with Raptor. Although I don't really think of Raptor necessarily as being a Native American. His costume was kind of vaguely Native American. His real name is Chip Talon, according to the package that we've got here. So it doesn't sound like a particularly Native American name, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have some Native American blood. Personally, I think it's probably one of those things where he's one of these white guys who doesn't want to seem like so much of a white guy, and kind of his family claims to have Native American heritage, but he's probably as waspy as they come, and his family came over on the Mayflower. That's what I'm thinking. All right, so let's have a look at the articulation real quick. So Raptor can only look up about that far because the long hair kind of gets in the way. He can look down about that far. Seems like you should be able to look down further. Might just be a little stiff. I don't know. Head rotates all the way around, of course. You can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Really move it around whichever way you want because, it's like a good G.I. Joe neck articulation. It's got neck articulation at both the where the head meets the neck and where the neck meets the shoulders. So that's good. His arms rotate all the way around, although it is going to be somewhat hindered by the flared shoulders on this vest. Arms move up. Sure if that's stiff or that's just as far as they move. I'm pretty sure that they move further than this. I think it's just stiff. This one just doesn't want to move at all. But this arm is moving up for me about that far. And it's got butterfly joints that move back and forth slightly, but the vest kind of covers them up a little bit. He does have a bicep swivel. Bicep rotates all the way around. We got double jointed elbows. Can I get the elbows to move? A lot of his joints are really stiff. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbows. I noted before that there is oh, he's got like a little peg there. I wonder if the bird will fit into that. Anyway, he's got like a little bit of an articulation at the where the glove meets the forearm, but there's these feathers sticking out of the glove. They're going to kind of bump up against his elbow. So you're not going to get full range of motion there because it's going to be hindered by that glove. Wrists rotate all the way around where they meet the forearm, and he has a vertical hinge over here. Again, it's really stiff, and I'm afraid I'm going to break the wrist, so I'm not going to try to move it too much. But he's got horizontal horizontal articulation at both wrists, and both of these forearm guards have this little peg hole in here, and I see how it works. So General Ledger, you see his back toes. That's actually one solid peg, and it's got a hole in it. So what you want to do is peg that into this hole on his wrist, and that is how Raptor lets his bird rest on there. We might as well put the cowl on there since that way we can see him with that. So that's how that works. That's why that peg's there. Now we know, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. And Larry Hama has no idea what I'm talking about. He's told that story before where like people would hear that he was the writer of the G.I. Joe comic book, and people will say to him, "Oh, knowing is half the battle." And he's like, "What are they talking about?" Because he hadn't really watched like an entire episode of the cartoon at that point. Maybe he still hasn't. I don't know. But there's a little teeny tiny sheath here, more like a loop, but works as a knife sheath. So that's how we stick that in there. And of course, like I said, the one weapon that I remember, I'll knock this cowl off. We're gonna need that. I hit this paper bag that I had down here, but I'm pretty sure I just hit the outside of it. I would have thought it would have bounced back this away, but that's because I'm using logic and trying to determine how stuff lands, and gravity is my immortal nemesis, so it could have landed any which way, bounced off of it in some strange manner. I found it. Good. Okay. So we're going to just leave the cowl off while I talk about the rest of his articulation and accessories. So I just want to talk about the gun real quick before I put it in his holster. So there he is holding the gun. And like I said, that's the one offensive weapon that I remember the original figure is coming with. He does look pretty cool with it. So let's take that out of his hand again. And I want to put it in the holster. He has a holster on his belt. And this is kind of a loose belt that I think is just supposed to kind of hang at his hip. Almost like a gunfighter belt. Not necessarily a hold your pants up belt. You can see he's got a hold your pants up belt with a gigantic winged bird on the belt buckle. That can't be comfortable. But you look at this guy's outfit, and this is a guy who is valued a look that he's going for over than practicality. You know what I mean? So Raptor can kick up about that far. He does have the drop down articulation that G.I. Joe Classified usually has. He has a thigh cut that should rotate all the way around, but he's got this armor piece on here with the pouches and everything, and that's going to kind of bump into stuff, but it rotates enough. You don't really need to rotate much more than that. Oh, he's got a nab crunch hinge, so that's about the range of motion. Bends over about that far, bends back about that far. The waist articulation is kind of more similar to how an 80s G.I. Joe is, where you can kind of move it around any which way. It's not held together with no ring, though. It's held together with a ball and socket. We've seen this one before because this is the same torso that Zartan and Quick Kick and a few other figures use. So we should be very familiar with this torso by now. He does have double jointed knees, and they don't seem to be too tight. They move just fine. There we go with that. He does have a boot cut, and he's got the feathers sticking out of his boots again. This is something that's very confusing to people, is that he doesn't have feathers that are like attached to his gloves and boots as if, like, you know, it's a trim or something like that. He has feathers that are literally sticking out of his gloves and boots, and to me that does not seem like that would be very comfortable. I'm just saying. His boots are kind of similar to Hawkman's in that they've got this bird talon thing going on that goes down the feet. So there's this gray padding that goes down the front of the shin and then continues on into this gray talon that's on there. And he does have the rocker ankles. The ankles rotate all the way around at the ankle, and they can bend down that far and bend up about that far. So let's go ahead and we got some more accessories to look at. So let's have a look at these blades here. So he's got these 3 blades. They all fit into his hand. So I think I've got this at the right angle. It seems like this would be the angle it would fit at. Because like I said, those handles are angled. So we should be able to, yeah, once he gets on there, it should be straight. If I had it at the wrong angle, then it would be angled wrong, obviously. So Raptor's a pretty cool figure, I think, but he's definitely a character that's a little more niche. And I think a lot of fans who were fans from the comic book would probably say he's a pretty silly character. And I think if he'd been on the Sunbow cartoon at that point, kids probably would have liked him, and he'd have a following from the cartoon show. But he doesn't really have that because he never really was on the cartoon. So he's in kind of a weird spot where he's a little too silly to be really embraced by the comic book fans, but he wasn't on the cartoon, so he's not going to be embraced by cartoon fans at all either. And personally, I think that how much you're going to appreciate this character is going to be based a lot on what a good job they did in translating it into a classified format. And I think they did a really good job at translating it in a classified format. But that's not going to matter if you're somebody who prefers your G.I. Joe to be in the more realistic military side of things. Now, personally, I think if you are a fan of the comic book and you've read the issues that feature Raptor and you're familiar with him, and you're in on the joke, then you're gonna love this figure anyway. Personally, like I said, I like to think of him as a guy who, like, falconing is his hobby, and that's, I guess, technically like his role on paper in the Cobra organization, but really he's just a good accountant. So they keep him around for his accountant skills and just kind of like placate him on his weird ideas as far as you use falcons as weapons on GI Joe. Okay, Raptor, show us. But first, I need you to do my taxes. So we need you to find a way to hide all the money that we spent on this weather dominator so it doesn't look like we built a weather dominator. So let's go ahead and put the cowl back on him. And let's talk about this glider wing somewhat. All right, so looks like this glider wing is loaded with articulation. Now, while I felt like, I keep meaning to say this and keep getting distracted. While I felt like Road Pig justified his being a deluxe figure just because the figure itself was like an entirely original sculpt and a pretty massive one, this one does reuse some body parts from Zartan. Most of the body parts from Zartan, I would say pretty much everything, but the head, the rubber trunk piece, the forearms, and the shins and feet. Might even be the same gloves that we've seen on figures before, like, for the hands themselves. But the wings on the glider pack move up about that far and move down about that far. They move inwards. Oh, look at that. They fold all the way in and they move backwards all the way pretty much till when they bump into each other. So this is an engineering marvel. I'm going to say this as far as like how these glider wings work. And of course, the wings move at this joint all the way back and forth. And then we've got one more joint here where this part of the wings moves up and down. And that's about the range of motion you get on that. So this is a really nicely done glider backpack with some wings, and it's really cool. It says Rip Wing on it over on this side, and CM2 over on the other side. There's got to be some significance to that, but I'm not sure what it is. It's even got a little bit of detail painted here where you see the exhaust is. There's like some little stains as if the exhaust is actually collected on the outside of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and put it on its back and see what it looks like when he's all put together. And there we go. So that, I think, is the full extended wingspan at the longest. And like I said, since we've got all these joints on here, we can get it into a lot of really cool poses. We can kind of have him wrap the wings around him. Very bird of prey kind of thing. Skulking in the mountains. Imagine him using this almost like a type of camouflage or something like that. Like I said, the original Raptor pretty much had like a winged cape. They kind of the cape kind of attached to his hands. It had little holes in it that you were supposed to put his hands in. I think a lot of kids probably just put the whole hole around his wrists, and that's what I did. And I know when I made my 3 3/4 inch version, my 25th anniversary modern style Raptor, I reused that cape, and I just kind of put little elastic loops through those holes so that they could hook onto the wrists of the larger figure somewhat more easily. So, and I wound up reusing the cowl from the original figure on that too, because it was easier. And Raptor parts, like the parts by themselves, are actually pretty cheap. And if you buy a backpack that's already broken anyway, it's not like you're messing up a valuable toy. I don't know if Raptor's that valuable to begin with. Like I said, he's not that popular of a character. But man, did the Hasbro team give us a good figure with this version of Raptor, and he definitely has evolved somewhat over time. He's a much more imposing figure with this glider wing cape than he ever was with the fabric cape that the original one came with. And let's see, we can pull these wings all the way in. I don't even know if they're even supposed to fold quite that far. It seems like the sculpt of it is intended to stop right here, but you can even get it a little bit further than that. So you can try to get him into something where it looks a little bit more like that cape or whatever. But there's all kinds of ways to fold this in. I'm going to have fun trying to experiment with them and figure out different ways to have it be posed. But I think this works pretty well. Unlike the cape on the original figure, which I figure he was just supposed to wear all the time, this one does seem like it's a little more of just like something that he wears when he needs to. I can't imagine even a guy as loopy as Raptor would want to wear a jetpack like all the freaking time. That's probably another reason it's probably good they gave him this vest. The vest works kind of like as a harness that you could imagine it being the sort of thing like somebody would wear to hold a flight pack on. It makes a lot of sense as far as that goes. But yeah, they did a good job with this guy. I'm really impressed with him. I think a lot of people, if they are willing to be open-minded about this character and give this figure a chance, there's a lot to love here and a lot to appreciate with Raptor. He's always going to be a goofy character. Don't misunderstand me. And to me, that's part of the appeal. He's a character that we're supposed to kind of laugh at a little bit, at least as far as the comic book version of him goes. I'm not sure how sincere they were in trying to make Raptor a genuinely cool character as far as the toy goes, but I don't know if I think they kind of missed the mark because I can't really think of many people who were like huge fans of the original Raptor figure. I mean, like I thought he was kind of cool, but I'm like a comic book fan, so I'm used to. No, I don't mean like a GI Joe comic book fan, which obviously I was that, but a fan of superhero comic books. So he had this. I don't think that I thought he was too outrageous, just because like I'm used to seeing guys that look like him fighting Spider-Man or Blue Beetle or whatever. So to me, it wasn't too weird. But if you were somebody who just read GI Joe comics, and especially if you were the type of fan who more was thinking of the military aspect of it, as a lot of kids did, seeing a guy who looked like this was kind of silly. But like I said, I kind of feel like Larry Hama, he probably Cobra Commander was probably echoing his own sentiments when he saw this character, and he's like, "What is up with this guy? This does not fit into what I'm trying to do at all." So that's why Raptor was written a bit more humorously in the comic book, and the kind of the butt of a lot of jokes. And he was kind of a sleazy character anyway. Larry didn't seem to have a whole lot of respect for the yuppie type of lifestyle, and he would make fun of those characters quite a bit. So Raptor was not really an exception to that. Anyway, I guess that's pretty much it for Raptor, but I've got like a whole lot of GI Joe to open up this week, and I'm going to try to get around to as many of these as possible. If I can get them all done this week, that's good. And besides that, at Big Bad Toy Store, I've got the Mad Marauders 2-pack of Spirit and Lowlight waiting for me. I'm just waiting on some more stuff to show up in my pile of loot for order those. And I've got Leatherneck and Dial Tone waiting for me. Hopefully, they're not in the pile of loot yet, but hopefully it'll be soon. So it says it's supposed to be in October, and here we are. It's October 27th. So, I'm sorry, 22nd. I meant to say. I don't know why I tripped over that word, but hopefully those will be in soon. And I'm kind of thinking when I get those in, I'll do all three of those at once. But I've got so much stuff that's pre-order right now at various places. So, and then there's I think they're supposed to show up in November now. I've got Alpine and the the gray camo version of Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow is my favorite GI Joe character, so I'm excited about that. But Raptor's pretty cool. If you don't mind him being a little bit of a goofy character, and like I said, I think that's you know that's just what the character is supposed to be. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, all up on YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Raptor, both this new modern figure and the character in general, and the vintage figure. There haven't been too many versions of Raptor. I know that they did one that was like for the figure subscription service, which I never had because it was too expensive for me. I couldn't afford it, so I just made my own in the modern 3 3/4 inch style, and it turned out pretty cool. But yeah, this one took the character in some interesting new directions, and I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. We will talk to you next time. Bye.